The Washington Commanders have received a double dose of good news here on a beautiful Thursday afternoon. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. I'm going to reveal what those two bits of good news for the Washington Commanders are here in just a second. But first, as you guys know, if you watched our preview earlier in the week, we are in the middle of a sub-battle between us and our frenemies here at the Eagles Now channel by Chat Sports. And right now they're beating us in that battle, but just by 5 subscribers. So listen, man, if you watch our videos, you've been watching our videos for a while, and for some reason you still haven't clicked that subscribe button, those are the people that are going to help us win this sub-battle this week. So do me a favor, click that subscribe button, join us for a week. If you don't like what I'm saying, if you don't like the content here on the channel, you guys can just unsubscribe next week, no questions asked, and you guys can help us beat the Eagles Now crew this week. So please do me a favor, click that subscribe button so that we can beat the Eagles both on the field this Sunday and off the field in our sub-battle this week. So the first bit of good news for the Washington Commanders today has nothing to do with the Commanders, it has everything to do with those Dallas Cowboys, baby. And they are looking like they are closing in on a deal to make Brian freaking Schottenheimer their next head coach, which of course is good news if you're a Washington Commander fan, because this guy wasn't even getting interviews for any other head coaching job, and he's about to get the biggest job there is, the head coaching position of America's team here. I mean, goodness gracious, what an absolute disgrace to that title for that franchise. Clarence Hill tweeted this out earlier today. Look for the Cowboys to cross the finish line on hiring Brian Schottenheimer no later than Friday. Possibly today talking about Thursday. So listen, man, this is an absolute joke of a hire for Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. To go from a guy in Mike McCarthy, who, let's face it, wasn't the best head coach in the world, but he certainly wasn't the worst, has a really good career record. He led that Cowboys team to 3 consecutive 12-win seasons, and, he was certainly somebody that, got a lot of success there in Dallas. But now you turn to his offensive coordinator that wasn't even calling plays, all right? Mike didn't even trust Brian to call the plays when he was there. And, Brian is somebody that's kind of a nepo, all right? He was the son of Marty Schottenheimer, who is an NFL legend in the NFL offensive space. So, of course, people just think, oh, Brian Schottenheimer is just going to be an amazing play caller. Not so much, man. He runs one of the most old school, kind of vanilla, bland offenses in the National Football League today. He did that in Seattle when he was the offensive coordinator there, and that's where the kind of offense he's run his entire time in the National Football League. Also, he began his coaching career with the Rams all the way back in 1997, and he's been somebody that's been, taking a lot of lateral moves in his coaching journey, but now he finally makes the upward trajectory move here as the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, or at least the reported next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And, he was the offensive coordinator here in Dallas, so the people in the locker room know about him. They know him. So, it's not going to be like a huge transition, but he didn't call plays. So now is he going to take on offensive play calling duties when Mike McCarthy the year prior didn't even trust him to do it? It just seems like such a reach for the Dallas Cowboys to, convince their fan base that this is a good hire. But, if you're a Washington Commander fan right now, you are absolutely elated that they're making this move, because it's not a very good hire, at least in my opinion. And it certainly looks like the Dallas Cowboys, a big brand, all these different things, they're not going to be a threat in the NFC East to the Washington Commanders. And honestly, you could certainly make an argument no matter who they hired for this position, they weren't going to be a threat to the Commanders, because obviously Washington has Jayden Daniels, they got Dan Quinn, and now they have $100 million in cap space to spend next year in free agency or something along those lines after roster cuts and everything go through. So, Dallas certainly seems like they're on, the downward trajectory here. I think this move is really going to put them in the cellar and in the basement of the NFC East. I think even the Giants have a chance to, be upward mobility here in this division, and the Cowboys, I think, are in for a rough next half decade at the very least, with Dak Prescott, kind of a middling B-plus level quarterback, getting that high of a cap hit, and then you pair him with a head coach in Brian Schottenheimer, who just isn't very good, if we're being completely honest. This is a head coach and quarterback league. Washington proved that this year by hiring Dan Quinn and then getting Jayden Daniels. And, it's not like the roster here in Washington is way better than what it was last year when they only won 4 games, but you got the head coach right. You got the quarterback right. You got the quarterback on a rookie contract, and because of that, this team is looking like they could dominate the NFC for the next decade, whereas the Dallas Cowboys, a joke of an organization, has a B-plus quarterback on an A-plus contract, and then, honestly, like a D or an F head coach leading their franchise heading into the years to come. So this is just not a good hire for the Dallas Cowboys, but for us Commanders fans, that is excellent news. So coming up here, more good news for the Washington Commanders here. It's not just Brian Schottenheimer going to the Dallas Cowboys. We've got more good news for you guys here coming up in just a second. But first, let's have word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the best place for you to buy tickets for the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks, that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All you have to do is select the Game Time Picks button at the top of the screen when you go into an event you want to go see, and Game Time automatically filters through their entire database of tickets to find you the best tickets at the best prices with the best views so that you and your family can get the best deals on any ticket you get to any live event. What I love about using the Game Time app is you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event. All-in pricing so you don't get slapped with a crazy fee at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to Game Time. Take the S work out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports. It's one word, all caps, ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. It's just for the first purchase, guys. You can create an account and redeem code ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So more good news here for the Washington Commanders is that now that Brian Schottenheimer appears to be getting the head coaching position there in Dallas, that means it won't be Kliff Kingsbury and it will not be Anthony Lynn taking that position. So it certainly looks like at this point in time, both Anthony Lynn and Kliff Kingsbury will be returning to the Washington Commanders in 2025 in their respective roles. Now, what I will say is that it definitely seems like, and it's, there's certainly whispers going around the league already about this, but Kliff Kingsbury, who's going to be very selective about any head coaching positions this year, I think he would have taken the Dallas job if he would have interviewed and they would have offered him the job. But obviously that looks like that's not going to happen. So I think that no other job out there is really going to pique the interest of Kliff Kingsbury. And I think next offseason, he's going to be looking for that head coaching job. And if Jayden Daniels has another stellar season and the offense has another stellar season like they had this year, and I expect them to, I would think that, the Commanders and you guys Commanders fans can expect Kliff Kingsbury to be with this organization for just one more season before he takes another head coaching job in the National Football League. You guys can see here the big jump that the Commanders took offensively this year. This is their stats from last year under Eric Bieniemy with Sam Howell as the starting quarterback. Not very good whatsoever. The only area where they were really thriving in was red zone percentage. I got to give Eric his credit there. He did a good job in the red zone. Give Sam his credit. He was a very good rusher of the football. Ran for a lot of touchdowns last year as the starting quarterback of the Commanders, but that's really the only area that they thrived in. They turned the ball over way too much. They weren't scoring a lot of points in general. They weren't really good on third down either. But then this year, you look at the improvement, and they're top 10 in every single major offensive team category under Kliff Kingsbury and, of course, under Jayden Daniels. Top 5 in scoring offense this year. Not turning the ball over nearly as much as they were last season. They situationally, they got a lot better on third downs, and they stayed around where they were last year in the red zone percentage. And, obviously getting the right quarterback helps, right? Having Jayden Daniels as your quarterback versus Sam Howell, obviously is going to make a big difference. But I do also think that Kliff Kingsbury and his scheme and, the way that he has been able to, implement Jayden Daniels' immense talent and translate that to a super successful rookie season, I think that Kliff deserves credit for that. I think his scheme this year has utilized a lot of modern concepts. I think that, before in Arizona, it honestly wasn't super innovative, but then here in Washington, he's been doing a lot of stuff that you just don't see in a lot of teams, in a lot of offenses in the NFL, and he's really pushing the envelope forward. Schematically in the NFL offensive game, and he deserves a ton of credit for coming into the season with an excellent game plan for how to use Jayden Daniels, how to use Terry McLaurin, how to use Zach Ertz, how to use guys like Brian Robinson Jr. and, of course, Austin Eckler. It's not like this is like the best offensive roster in the National Football League. Like, it's not even close to even the Eagles who were playing this weekend, but the production is even better than the Eagles because the quarterback's better, because the play caller is better, and you do have enough talent surrounding those pieces instances where the end product was better than what the Philadelphia Eagles ended up putting on film this year. But because Kliff Kingsbury is likely out the door after next season, I think Dan Quinn needs to start making preparations for who is going to be the heir apparent and be Jayden Daniels' second offensive play caller. Now, I think what makes sense is you hire within house. And the reason for that is that you can pretty much keep the same exact offense that Kliff Kingsbury is running right now here in Washington. And, there's certainly guys with experience and there's certainly good options for Dan Quinn to consider. Brian Johnson was a former offensive play caller in Philly. It didn't really work out for him, but now that he's kind of shifting schools of thought schematically, he's gone over to kind of the air raid kind of school of thought here with Kliff Kingsbury. Maybe he would do better in his second stint as an offensive play caller. Anthony Lynn has been a play caller multiple times. He's a former head coach as well. He's also assistant head coach to Dan Quinn, so that might be somebody that Coach Q considers. Tavita Pritchard is the quarterbacks coach for Jayden Daniels. If you want to make sure that Jayden is super comfortable with that next offensive coordinator, why not elevate the person he already has a relationship with? And then you can also consider the assistant quarterbacks coach in David Blau, a former NFL quarterback, really good mental processor. Back in his day, he was limited physically, but he's also known as somebody that is a great leader, is a great locker room presence, and somebody that has really aided Jayden Daniels in his rookie season this year in that quarterback room. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comment section. Who should be the heir apparent at offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders? I know we all love Kliff Kingsbury in this chat room right now, guys, but I think that Kliff probably has one more season here in Washington, and then he's done, so you got to have a plan for the future. Would you hire anybody in-house, or would you have somebody else in mind outside of the organization that you'd rather hire? Let me know down there in the comment section. Thank you for making it to the end of today's edition of the Commanders Report. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We got extensive Commanders coverage coming your way all weekend long, getting you guys ready for this critical do-or-die NFC Championship playoff game versus the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday. And by the way, don't forget, we're going to be going live for that game, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, a special 90-minute pregame tailgate where we got a bunch of great stuff. Me and Joey are going to have a lot of fun on that pregame show. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, hail to the Commanders.